Welcome back to the barn, ladies and gentlemen. We got a special guest here, the founder of Whiskey with Whitaker, and some of y'all know him as Padre, Jeff Whitaker, on the podcast. Welcome. How does it feel?
Great to be here, founder of Whiskey with Whitaker. However, tonight we're drinking some hot tea because it's Monday and school nights can't be drinking the whiskey, so
Yeah.
we'll keep it to some tea tonight.
Yeah. So I guess so. I talked about it in an exclusive episode that's only for Marcus. I might post it. You might get some feedback from him. I might post it. But I talked a little bit about your hog hunt that you went on. But I didn't want to steal your thunder and talk too much about it. So I said I'll go ahead and let you talk about it once I got you on here.
All right. So a couple of buddies and I, we got the opportunity. We've been kind of talking about getting out and doing some wild hog hunting. We finally got the opportunity. We took a little tour over to Georgia. Had some boys put us up over there. Had a camp that we had in a cabin. Boys had, I don't know if it was 4,500, 7,500 acres. Had a great big spot. The hogs were tearing up.
Yeah.
So we got to go out there. We got to do some steel hunting. They had some box blinds. We had some ground blinds. Got out during the morning and the evening. Shot some pigs out like that. And then the boys broke out their thermal scopes. They had some thermal scopes on ARs, and we went out at night and looked through thermal scopes. And I don't know if you guys have ever had the chance to look through a thermal scope or not, but I'm telling you, it is borderline unrealistic. It almost looks like a video game. Like, you cannot quite believe that it's real. You put that rifle up, you look down, and it's pitch black. You can't see from your eyeball to the scope on the rifle, and you put it back up, and it looks like a black and white video. It is insane how picture perfect, and it's a little square screen inside that scope, and it's like watching a video or a movie. It's not like looking out through a regular scope. This is video enhanced. It almost doesn't look real. So we got to do that. Had a great time out there, shooting some hogs. We went out on a little bit of a quail hunt. Got to shoot some birds. Borderline almost let the boys talk me in to go out there with the dogs and stick one with a knife, but I thought at my age and with my titanium rods in my back and my screws that I probably ought not be on the ground wrestling around with nothing, let alone a 200 or 300 pound pig that doesn't care for me wrestling it. So I decided against that. Trip number 2 or something, maybe if we can get some of you younger bucks out there, I'd go run around and chase you after a dog and maybe go tie up. I guess these boys will even catch these pigs, tie them up, literally hog tie them,
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
pick
Did
them
you
up.
have
Just
a
I
hard
don't know
time
if you.
to get them out of there.
Yeah, well, no, so we didn't on the ones that we'd shot. Had to drag them through some nasty forest, and it was tough going. Buddy and I tried to pull one out a little ways. We didn't get very far. Went and got some help from one of the boys that does it all the time. And I'm telling you what, that boy grabbed a hold of that hog. Not a great big one, 140 pound hog or so. But he pulled that thing out of that thick woods, and it was gone in no time. He backed up, put it in high gear, and he was out of there. And Mike and I were sitting there whimpering like whipped pups trying to move that thing. We just couldn't get it very far. So, but it was a great time. If you ever get the opportunity to go hog hunting, I recommend you do it. Jump on it. That is a fun time. And we'll get out there and get you young pups out there and actually chase one. But I was going to tell you, they hog tie these things. They sell them live.
Oh, okay.
They sell them live to these groups that charge $1,000, $1,200, $1,500 for a wild hog hunt, and they buy these hogs, these wild hogs, and they have fenced rows that they put them down, and they set you up in a blind at the box at the end of it, and open up the gate, and the pig runs down there. You're like, oh, wild
That's
hog,
like
wild hog.
The what is it? Antelope or gazelle? Antelope, I think, out west, back home. Don't they do that? The exact same thing. They get the antelope there and they put them in a field, and then they take you on a guided hunt, so you're guaranteed to kill them.
Yeah, they don't do it with.
Seth used to do it.
Yeah, they don't do it with like the antelope that we have, but some of the. I don't know what they're called. They're like African antelope or something. They're exotic species. They're not they're not the pronghorn that we have out in Nebraska. But yeah, the same type of thing where they buy an animal, and you can do the same thing out at Ted's place with buffalo, and basically buy the buffalo for $3,500, $4,000, whatever it is, and then they let you go out there and shoot it. Which, as I found out when Jimmy was running Ted's ranch, Jimmy Booth was the manager out there. He was running Ted's ranch, and those things, he just called them overgrown goats. You could literally just almost walk up to them there.
Yeah. That's how it is in South Dakota. You're driving through, walk right up to the cars.
But they're dangerous beasts, especially come time for rut. That's a big animal. You don't want no part of it. But I got to see some cool stuff when Jimmy was running that ranch. But unfortunately, him and Ted had some religious differences.
Yeah. So speaking of big animals, actually, so I rewatched King Kong last night, like the original one with Jack Black and all that.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't call that the original one.
Maybe not the original one, but the one with the video game on the original Xbox. So I was rewatching it, and when they go to Skull Island, the whole thing, like before they get there, there's like, oh, there's this wall, and I started thinking, is this symbolism for the Arctic wall? Saying King Kong is this other world, and it's trapped behind this wall, but it's really just saying, this is the Arctic wall. There's something trapped behind this wall.
So when they took that ship out and they were going there, did they go through Arctic type weather? Was it?
No, so it
I don't
wasn't
remember
Arctic.
it too well.
So they were going through, and the captain found out that Jack Black's character, I don't remember his name, had a warrant out for his arrest.
Right.
And so he went to go change course and turn around. And as soon as he tried to leave is when they entered like that beginning of Skull Island.
Okay.
They were measuring the depths, and then they're like 10, whatever it is, kilometers or whatever it is. And they're like 10, and then the kid up in the crow's nest saw the wall, and he's like, whoa! And then they ran ashore and all that stuff, and then the natives got him and stuff. But I was thinking, like, instantly, as soon as I was like, because it wasn't like they were saying, oh, this island is dangerous. They were just talking about the wall. They're like, there's this huge wall built to keep this thing. It's not to keep us out, it's to keep this thing in. So I was like, oh, Arctic wall. Is it really to keep us out? Or are they keeping something else in there? But at the same time, they're kind of doing both. Because they're also keeping us out, but keeping that thing in.
I mean, I guess that's a possibility. Not what I've always kind of thought for Arctic wall and what's beyond, past, whatever.
So have you seen the diagram for the Arctic wall on the map that they made for it?
So you're talking about like when Admiral Byrd went down there and did the first expedition from. You'll have to pull up the year. I don't know, 1860, something like that. I don't remember. My memory's terrible with dates anymore. But
no, but it's not actually that. It's kind of like almost like a guess, basically. So they've got, it's like they call it Middle Earth, and that's where we are.
Right.
And then the Arctic wall surrounds us, and then there's a whole nother rim to the Earth that we're not being allowed to because the Arctic wall protects us.
So where there's a couple of areas outside, so there's what we're used to on the inside, the wall around, and then there's basically another ring that goes all the way around, and then there's another one around that. Yeah. And that's like, I think maybe I wish I could remember the name. The land outside that ring was called, or there was Tartan, something like that. Yeah. So I don't know either. One of the things that you see quite often is there was all of these buildings from that land or area or city or whatever it's called, and it looks a lot like the buildings and the architecture and the design that we had all over the world from like the late 1600s to the late 1800s, that couple hundred years, where you look at what you'd figure is an old building and you look at how massive it is, how tall it is, huge columns, the great big doors, the carved architecture, how much intricate
detail,
work is
yeah.
done in detail and stuff like that, versus what we have today for any commercial building or anything.
Yeah,
Like
it's all very plain.
it's not even close to the same thing. So it's
Mhm.
you see that quite a bit. Yeah, I've seen that that map or drawing or rendering, whatever it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever it is. Yeah, but I think it was, now that you say, I think it was Admiral Byrd that went up there, and he was like, I think he was trying to tell people about it or something, and ended up getting killed for it.
So you can literally go down to the library. You can go to a museum. You can go to some place. You used to be able to go to my mother's house
Mm.
and pull out the encyclopedia.
Mhm.
And if you could get your hands on the paper encyclopedia of what was written, you can still see what he wrote in there. It
Yeah.
just, that has disappeared from the internet,
Yeah,
probably by design.
yeah, definitely.
I think if you just go buy you an old set of 1960s encyclopedias,
Mhm.
and the stuff that's in there, there's all kinds of stuff in there that I bet you can't find on the internet anymore, of information, knowledge, whatever being hidden.
Yeah.
By design to dumb you down and to, make you want to be dependent.
Yeah, honestly, that's what we were talking about when Griff was here. We were talking about how like all these social media and news outlets and all this stuff is just brainwashing everybody. It makes you so focused, like especially like for politics. It makes you so focused on politics. You have no idea what's going on in the rest of the world. Everybody in America is so focused on Trump or just politics in general that they don't even realize that there is another world or a whole world out there. They only live in America. They don't see that there's a whole world going on around them.
Well, and they're even more hyper vigilant to that, to just the pages that they subscribe to.
Yeah.
And the information that comes out of these handful of pages, it is shocking to see. People will post, repost, share these handful of what are they called? The pictures that people write on the face space and stuff.
Or like memes or
The memes, yeah. So they share these they share these memes that get shared over and over and over, and then the same picture will get used and a different thing will get written on it. But it's just a hyper echo chamber of what the algorithm shows. They want to see something that portrays this person, these people, this thought in a bad light, and over and over and over, it just shows it again and again and again. And they're on their phone, they're on their computer, they're inside the house, and that becomes their reality. They think that's what's real.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I always tell people, and you see it especially for a certain group of people, they get so hung up on that this is evil, this is bad, this is tearing things apart, this is going to ruin things. And like, if you'd close your computer, shut your phone off, and walk outside, you're going to find it's wildly different than what's being portrayed on your phone.
Exactly.
Like, take a guy like me that is the exact definition of everything that you say that you hate and is wrong and is bad. Put your phone down, come outside, and do something with me. I think you're going to find out that that phone is wickedly wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a big problem that we're in today.
Yeah, and a big thing that I see is how much of it is just blatant lies that people just believe because they read it, and it's honestly shocking. Like,
it
they
is
just
shocking.
take people's word for it'll be some random person just says something, and then they're like, "That's not even what happened."
Yep.
None of that is true.
Absolutely.
Like,
and
do you watch you watch Charlie Kirk at all? His stuff?
a little bit, yeah.
So I mean, he debates like these, or I guess debates. He talks to these college kids, and they come up and they're saying, Trump's racist, Trump's this, blah 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 blah, and he's just like, name one thing he did racist.
Right.
Name one thing, and they can't do anything, and it's and they base their whole life off of that.
Right, and they base it off of a little picture they saw on their phone over and over and over and over and over again that says that he's bad, that he's tearing apart the country, that he's this, that he's that, and that people who support him are these racist, homophobic, blah, 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 whatever, every bad name you can think of. And you go, you're no longer talking about a little tiny minority outlying group of people. It's like a big portion of the country is beginning to open their eyes and look, and they're seeing what information is coming out, and they're going, wait a second.
Yeah.
You know, and it's sad that it's taken some people so long, but it's relieving that they're finally doing it. I mean, finally opening their eyes and seeing stuff.
Yeah, which I mean, it does go both ways, honestly. But I know, like, your point about the people are on their phones too much. Have you seen U.S. Cellular's new plan, where it's like a plan designed to get you off your phone?
Oh, I've seen the commercials. Yeah,
I mean,
I think
nice.
It's got Alanis Morissette on there advertising.
There's an app I keep seeing. It locks like social media on your phone unless you do a workout. Like, it gives you like a little, you know, like it almost looks like the cameras.
Like push 20 times to get 5 minutes
of Ghost Adventures. You know those cameras, like it looks like that, and it tracks you doing push-ups to unlock your social media. Which I was like, that's
cool.
kind of sweet.
Yeah, that's good. I hadn't seen that, but
yeah. Yeah. And then, since you were talking about, so I guess guys, they're on my TikTok. They see my repost.
Oh yeah.
So I reposted a song by Guns N' Roses, "This I Love," and it was just the guitar solo, which that whole thing is sweet. I mean, going from the piano, and then the piano slows down, and then it's fading off, and then and he comes in. And you said that wasn't even Slash doing that.
If I remember right, you'll have to Google it and look. I think that Chinese Democracy album was after they broke up, and it might have been.
It sounded really good.
It might have been all of Guns N' Roses, maybe except for Slash. I just don't think Slash was playing in the Chinese Democracy. I think that was after the big riff, and they split up, and I think he got like Duff McKagan and some of the other guys back together. Maybe not all of them, but my memory's suspect. But if memory serves me correctly, I don't think Slash was on that one. I think he was doing his solo albums. He did a couple of solo albums about that time.
He sings?
Well, he played, so he had some guys singing. Like, he did a lot with Miles Kennedy.
Oh, okay.
And I don't remember who else he had. But he had, after they split up Guns N' Roses, I don't remember if the first thing he did was Velvet Revolver or if he did something before Velvet Revolver, and then he had some of his own. He's got a couple of. Maybe he has 3. I was thinking he had 2 albums out, but he might have 3 after that Guns N' Roses split.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that piano, that slow, that guitar,
is really good.
That is fairly consistent throughout Guns N' Roses, and a lot of stuff that they have. You know, you can go back to early days stuff, and they did a lot of that.
I love the piano and the guitar together. It sounds so good.
Yeah, and another big one that they did. It was later. I think it was November Rain has that where they've got the piano solo in it. It's got some guitar solo in it. It goes from the real slow and then some screaming guitar, and that's one of those 14-minute songs. It's up and down and all over the place, song. And it's so.
I'll say because I don't know, it might be different for Brett and Tyler. Probably not. I don't really see how it could be. But every time I think of you, I think of music, it's instantly Guns N' Roses. Like, that is it. It's always Guns N' Roses, and then Nothing But a Good Time by Poison. That's all I think of whenever I think of like your music.
What about old country stuff? Does that?
Yeah, I mean that comes, but then I'm like, as soon as the first thing is Guns N' Roses. That's first thing.
Yeah, that's what I listened to a lot of that through. Like, you know, they came out. Boy, I don't know, early 80s, maybe 81, 82. So I was a young man when that came out. And
10?
So
maybe not 10.
No, I'd have probably been 6, 7 years old or so when they first started coming out.
What's your born?
76.
I was thinking you were born 73.
No, 76. So I was pretty young when that came out, and so by the time that I actually got to listen to them by myself, you'd hear them on the radio or other people's have.
Let you listen to Guns N' Roses?
Actually, my mom drove down to North Platte when that double album came out, Use Your Illusions 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
The day that album came out, my mom drove from Thedford down to North Platte, bought that double album for me, and brought it back. I was the
Dang.
first SOB to have that.
Dang, okay.
So
I could see that.
she did, but obviously early didn't like that, and it was.
I'll say, were they? I guess I never really asked them, but were they strict about music? Like, were they kind of like, this is the devil's music or anything like that?
No, and one of the things that I
Because your dad was religious, wasn't he?
yeah, dad was a preacher, and one of the things that I thought was odd at the time, like I don't remember which Guns N' Roses album it was, but playing a song on there and Dad starts singing along, and I'm like, how in the world do you know this song? This is this album just came out. It's brand new. This is an old song. I'm like, what do you? It's not an old song. It just came. It was a remake, but it was a remake of a song that I'd never heard, and it was a popular '60s song, and I just didn't have any idea. He's like, this is an old song. I'm like, it can't be.
Yeah.
I couldn't understand that at the time. So.
Yeah, because I mean they do that a lot though. A lot of rock bands do that. They'll just do a cover of something old, and you think it's like, oh, this is really good, and then you're like, oh, this is the actual original.
Right, and that's
country singers do it too.
Same thing. Like one of the big hits that came out not too terribly long ago, that really put one of the artists kind of front and center. So this guy had been writing songs for, I don't know, 25, 30 years. He comes out and does a remake of a song that just absolutely explodes. People think it's his song.
Mm-hmm.
It's Chris Stapleton and Tennessee Whiskey.
That's not his song.
Shit, no, that ain't his song.
I thought that was his song.
No.
Whose song is it?
That's I think that's a George Jones song. You'll have to look that one up. I think that's a George Jones. I think it's George Jones that did that song. But
because I was gonna say I've heard it sang differently, but I thought it was a remake of.
No, this is a early '60s.
It sounded old, but I thought
Yeah.
Chris Stapleton did it first, and it was just some old guy singing it.
Nope.
Huh. I guess
But
learn something new every day.
yeah, and there's a lot of that where you can take songs that that just maybe weren't chart toppers or they weren't that great back in the day, and you change it a little bit, and it's like maybe it was before its time, and now it really hits today where 30 years ago it wasn't that.
That's some of the artists from like the 2000s. That's what they're saying now, because people start listening to it now and they're like, holy shit, this is really good, but it didn't hit back then because that wasn't the play back then. That wasn't the sound that everybody was listening to. But now they listen to it and like, holy shit, this is really good.
Either the sound or maybe the message that's like, this guy or gal or whoever write this song, feeling this feeling, understanding this, was 20 years ahead of everybody else. Going, yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Shoot, I guess.
What else? You had something else you were going to talk about. I told you to write it down. You're like,
I had 3
right here.
I had Arctic Wall, Hog Hunt, and music.
Okay, all right. Well, your Arctic Wall behind that. Let's go back to that for just a second. We won't spend too long.
I don't know how Alex sits on these coolers.
I don't know
so
either.
Comfortably. He just perches up here. I don't know how he does it.
Well, I was watching a little bit with you and Alex and Griff, and you got Griff sitting down there, barely just his head sticking over the top of the.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's kind of cruel.
Yeah. I mean, it's because he's tall enough. I guess. It'd be worse to put Alex down there.
Take the tall kid, set him on the floor.
Alex would be down. You wouldn't even be able to see Alex down there.
So, what do you think, if anything, is beyond the ice wall?
I honestly almost kind of think so. I guess I got a kind of couple ideas. So the first one, the one that always comes back, is that it's almost like that it's the government. It's almost like the Illuminati, like the government of the government, and they're just sitting back there watching and controlling us, making sure that we're doing what we want to do, and they're the ones that are actually kind of causing these rifts between all these things, and it's them doing it, and it's not necessarily the world governments. Because I mean, especially with the aliens. So the world governments have came out and said we are working together to try to reverse engineer all of the the UFOs, any alien technology that we have found that has been discovered in our countries. We are all working together to try to reverse engineer it. And I don't feel like if we're working together to reverse engineer aliens, there's no way we're going to fight each other. There's just no way. If we're trying to fight something else, we're not going to fight each other. And I think that something else is beyond the wall, making it seem like the whole world is against each other, when in reality, we're actually working together, but we're being told that we're not. And then I also think, maybe it's underdeveloped humans, like native tribes almost, but like we're way evolved past them. And that if we would go to there, like if we went beyond the wall, we would be, mauled, murdered, whatever, something crazy. I also, I don't know. I kind of think aliens, but I'm really deep in the aliens are in the ocean. I really do think that's where they're at.
I think they can. Well, I don't know. So, what if you?
I guess you might have some classified, Mr. Government over here.
Not that we're going to talk about. What if you thought about, instead of underdeveloped tribal type people,
either that or the reverse, that they're so much beyond us that we're almost like a game, like a show for them almost.
Right. So what if you take some time and you read some, it touches a little bit in a few books in the Bible, but there's some books of the, what is it called, the Apocrypha. There's 88 books that aren't included. So like the Book of Enoch is a big one that talks about some things that are at the top and the bottom of the earth. And
is the Book of Enoch, is that the one with the firmament? That you can't break the firmament, or is that another book?
I think it might talk about the firmament in Enoch.
Or is that Genesis that's the firmament?
Well, in Genesis it talks about the firmament, that when it was made, how it was made, what it is.
It's like you can't break it, so we've never been to space, is what that's saying, basically.
Right. But, what if that is super ancient, evolved life that is at both ends, in the middle, transfer through, and or is able to exist, function, and transfer to something like a dimension that's right here, but if we're 3D and there's 4D, and we can't exist, evolve, see, function in the next dimension.
So that's also, so I don't know if you watched it. I said something about it with the podcast, I think with Elijah. I don't know if you watched that one. But I was saying how like our brain is traveling through different planes of existence and almost going through different dimensions, and it's almost like a passing by, and we're just going through them all so quick that we can't actually stop and comprehend any of them. So the only one we can actually do, or like comprehend, is the one we're in, but we're actually traveling through all of them in our mind, but we can't stop, be in those dimensions, be on those planes, and comprehend what we're going through. Like because he brought up, we were talking about ghosts and stuff, and he brought up, like when you're sitting by yourself, or like especially with him, he'll be playing the game, and Bree will be asleep, and he'll hear his name like being called, and I was like, it could be ghosts or something like that. But I'm also thinking, what if you're flying by this plane that's almost like a parallel but different reality or plane or dimension, and you fly by it in your mind, you hear it, like, so say it's a parallel but it's different, so you hear, so say he was living in Greenville with his mom, and he boom heard Elijah, he's already gone, but he heard it, turns, nobody's there, freaks him out.
Yeah, so I think there's something, to explain what it is, I'm not sure, but I think there's definitely something with, the dimension, with the travel. Like, if you've ever had...
So do you think that Sasquatches travel like that? Have you seen that where they
So-
go through wormholes?
Well, and there's a lot of stuff from the native side of the family,
Mm-hmm.
that talks about sky people. It talks about ant people.
Yeah.
It talks about shapeshifters.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about people who exist at, and they call it times. They say they exist at different times, but I don't know that it's really time that
Almost
they're
like
talking
time
about.
travel.
No, not necessarily time travel. It's not like they can go, like how everybody thinks time travel to go from 2025 to 1983. That's not.
Well, no, I'm saying like you were almost like a reincarnation, but you're the same person.
No, it's more of talking about existing simultaneously in different
Almost like a doppelganger.
times. Almost, but instead of having two of the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
it's just one being that is here and here
Right.
at the
Mhm.
same time, and can
Go between both.
do that, can function between that, and that's why ancestors and generations later can see the exact same thing, person, being,
That makes
because
sense.
it can exist in different
In both.
times,
Mhm.
different maybe planes,
Mhm.
or something. I don't know that it's necessarily time, but
Yeah.
I don't know that we have a better way to explain it than that. Like if you've ever seen, I see it on computer a lot, where there's like, looks like a graph paper out
Mhm.
of digital lines on there,
Mhm.
and then like they push a hole, and like if the graph paper
Yeah.
would make a hole and
Mhm.
fall down in there. So if there was a whole bunch of layers of those graph papers, and you pushed a hole in this corner of the graph paper and went over to this hole on the second graph paper and pushed a hole to here, you could be at this plane, and this plane, at three different planes at three different like times
Yeah.
at the same time. And I think there is a way to do. I think there are things doing that right now, and I think that is something that we as humans used to be able to do. I think that is something that is very possible, and we are very well able to do that. We've lost the knowledge of how to do it.
I think we're just so out of touch with ourselves.
And
that
I think that's the big thing, is like if we spent more time outside with nature, bare feet in the grass, your
I also
hippie
think we
tree
need to,
hugging stuff.
I think honestly a lot of people, I know they say that people contact is good for you and stuff, and I mean there's actual scientific benefits and real studies that have been done, but I also feel like we need to spend a lot of time alone.
That's very true, and that's one of the things that, especially from the native side of the family, was a very big
Because
key
they send
piece.
almost kind of becoming men, young warriors, out by themselves to
several
survive.
different times, and for several different reasons, you had to go out on your own, be out on your own, because it was, I can't show you this, I can't do this for you.
Mm-hmm.
You have to see it, you have to experience it, you have to go through it, because the message to me might not be the message to you. You might have, you have a different purpose and calling, and I can't tell you what that is. You have to go experience and find out and get that message, that calling, that purpose.
Yeah.
I'm not the one that can give that to you. And so that was very big in the native side of, and for several different reasons, for growing up, for doing your medicine wheel, for becoming a warrior, for religious growth, for knowledge, for all kinds of things. There was several different things that you had to go out, and the only way you could do it was alone by yourself. It wasn't something that the elders or the chief could impose on you. They couldn't give that knowledge to you. You had to go get it. They could tell you how to go do it and how to get there, but couldn't open your eyes and your ears to it. You had to do it. Yep. And that's a big thing that's lost. And I think if we got back to a lot of that, we could get that knowledge back. But it's hard to get outside of the air conditioner. It's hard to get away from the ease of life that we have it now, to go back and to put yourself through some pain, through some suffering, through some growth. It's hard to do. One of the things that is a great healing agent, something that's really good for your body, is a cold plunge.
Yeah.
Extremely hard to do.
It sucks. Yeah, I hated doing ice, because I had to take ice baths my senior year when I first hurt my hip, when I I don't know, strained my hip flexor or whatever. I had to take ice baths fucking that whole week. And I was just, oh my God, I'll get in there. And then Dursey would be in there. I had to do it with Zai. And Dursey would get in there, and me and Zai would be sitting there. Dursey would walk by, he'd pour his ice down Zai's back. I'm like, don't you fucking do it. Don't you do it to me.
Yep. So there's all kinds of stuff that is good for your health, your mind, your body, your spirit.
I'll say the same thing for, I guess,
hard
the
on
inverse is sauna. I mean, they did the sweat.
We did sweat lodges, and sweat lodges, not only just the heat, the sweat, the getting the impurities out of your body. It was closely tied along with music and religion. There was, the heat was just a portion of what goes on in the sweat lodge. Yeah. It's just one little piece. So.
Yeah, definitely going through extremes.
Yep, and it does. It's good for your mind, body, soul, everything to do that. And I think if we could get outside the house and get outside and get involved more in the old ways, a lot of that knowledge would come back. I don't think that knowledge has gone anywhere. I think that knowledge is still right there. And I think that if you took the time and the uncomfort, the growth to get there, and you still get it.
Yeah.
It just,
I mean,
when you're in a 9 to 5, you can't go do this on the weekends. It takes a life to do this.
Yeah. I mean, that's like a whole bunch of stuff I've been seeing. It's just like everybody, like, because I follow this thing on Facebook. I don't even know what the account's called, but it's these people that have just completely quit their jobs. They've given up everything. They have no money. They have no real worldly possessions besides like really just the clothes on their back. And they go out and they do a lot of meditating. They do they call it grounding. It's just walking around barefoot.
Yep.
And they do all this stuff like how they did it native way, pretty much. And I mean, they seem like great people, but they're also kind of like the
well, it's
almost kind of like those people that would go do it, but it's also
right.
But
it's a different mindset.
Yeah.
It's a different mindset to work a 9 to 5 than it is to say, I have to have my bare feet in dirt for a couple hours a day.
Yeah.
And that is extremely good for your body to have your bare feet in the dirt.
So there's people that even work like even 9 to 5s that will take pieces of the ground. They buy pieces of sod or take pieces from their yard and they put it below their desk and they ground during their work, and they do the standing desk, so they're walking on the ground. And
it does a world of good for you to do that, and I think if somehow we could get back to there, leave the 9 to 5, the office, and have another awakening,
destroying America,
right? I mean, if we could go, I think if
we
could
feel like a trap, though,
go
honestly.
Back to that, I think we would be light years ahead of where we're at, of what we're supposed to be doing. I think we would be way ahead.
Especially, I mean, going back to the aliens. How are they so far advanced?
And I think again that comes from an ancient life
almost
and
way
knowledge.
Of doing things. They never stopped. So
right.
They're just so much like they, because I mean, even with Like with the pyramids. I mean, the Pyramid of Giza is lined up with the coordinates of the speed of light. The coordinates are the speed of light on the Great Pyramid of Giza.
And lined up with that, lined up with Orion. There's
There's no way you could be.
And I think
that,
there's.
I guess there is a way to be that in touch with the world.
Sure,
but we've stopped.
Right, we've stopped pursuing that line of knowledge, thinking it was hokey or whatever, or something happened somewhere along the line where we've separated ourselves from that. I don't know if it was a big cataclysmic event that knocked people apart and just went into survival mode.
Yeah. Also, just a splitting of the world. I mean, the continent's moving.
That's true.
I'm sure Pangea used to be. I mean, I guess I don't really know, but.
I mean, supposedly it was all one thing, right? One landmass.
All of the people in the world connected.
And then
there's no way that's not a good thing.
We're told that over millions of years it split apart.
Mm-hmm.
What if that's not true? What if Pangea was all together and there was a cataclysmic event and it wasn't millions of years to take that apart, but it happened like right now? How does the
I'm a little iffy on that, just because they fit together like perfect puzzle pieces.
Right.
Plus
so it broke apart right now.
Plus, they're still moving.
They're still moving. Is that because of big explosion and there's just
still like
a little ripple? When you throw a big rock into the water, you can still see the ripples a long ways, and they'll move.
But isn't it moving? I guess I don't know. I was about to say, is it moving back together? But I don't know. I think it's going back the other way.
I think it's going the other way. So where like South America and Africa wouldn't fit together anymore, that it's going the other way around. I think.
I think it's going.
Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, I think it's going that way too. Like we're going away from Europe back to, I guess it's still Europe, but back to the side of China.
Right.
Yeah.
So. Anyway, how long are we getting on this thing? 42
42
minutes. That's longer than what we were going to go. So before we drag this out, we'll have to get a couple of things that we maybe want to go into a little bit deeper, whether it's aliens,
Let us know
whether
if there was a topic that was.
If
there was something that interests you guys,
or something different.
Below.
We can chat about something different too. You want to hear if there's something specific you want to hear, if that sparked interest in anything, we can dig into something.
I'm on you guys all the time about comments. Just comment something, you know what I mean?
So.
But yeah. So I guess how was your time? Get a little post game interview. How was your time?
Hey, it wasn't bad at all. First episode on what is this? The barn. First episode on the barn. We're not in a barn.
It's basically a barn. Might as well be. It's even got a rafter. Might as well be a barn.
Well, it's not a barn. But good. Yeah. I think that's something that could be pursued a little bit farther. Let us know what you want to talk about, and we can go into depth on a couple of things.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, that'll do it. I'll see you guys in the next one.
See ya.